Okay, let's get to Manchester United's injury list, because there is another name joining that long list of absentees, and that name is Nusaya Mazraoui, who will be out for a few weeks after undergoing a minor heart procedure. He'd been experiencing palpitations, and it's said to be a relatively common condition according to the club's statement. It's expected he'll make a full recovery and be available for selection in the next few weeks. So that's one of the stories coming out of Manchester United today. The other is that of Erik Ten Hag's future. Apparently there was a meeting with the execs, a meeting that was already planned.
Two meetings, one in Manchester and the big one in London.
The big one in London, over 7 hours, and nothing. Erik Ten Hag on one of the topics on the agenda. However, no news, no information coming out about his role and whether he'll be continuing.
They're all sitting there. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're doing.
How does it take you 7 hours to figure this out?
It's only a matter of time.
Seriously?
It is only a matter of time. And all they're doing is, you know, fudging it down the road, because it's going to happen. Like there's been too many mediocre games, too much, too many bad performances. It's not, may get a little better, but it's not going to get much better. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we're sitting here weekend after this one, and he's in there again, and they have another bad result, and then we have the same conversation. But yeah, I mean, I don't know what the hold-up is. I'm not privy to that.
You have to think that either they don't know what the next move is, or the person they want, they can't get them right now, and they're just willing to wait. I mean, it has to be one of the two. They either don't know, or the guy they want, they can't get him right now.
But willing to wait is jeopardising any chance to get back amongst the top four, where the prize money, sponsorship, they're going to lose sponsorship money if they continue to be where they are. They're going to lose the Champions League money, and although they are a huge club that can generate money, they have, like most of the other clubs, they have this profit and sustainability issues that they have to deal with, and these all come into it. And as we currently speak, I'm not suggesting if they give the job to Ruud van Nistelrooy as an interim manager, they're going to get in the top four. But they've got to do something to give themselves a chance of getting up the table.
You need a spark. You can't sit in 14th and carry on the way you are. You need a spark. And it's easy to say that, but doing what they're doing right now, that spark isn't happening. It's just the same struggle after struggle after struggle. So you got to try something.
This is Manchester.
Because if they don't do anything, nothing's going to change, right?
This is Manchester United. He's just had the worst start they've ever had in the Premier League era, and it's broken his own record from the year before of the worst start.
Yep.
I mean, it can't continue. Well, it can. It can continue with him keep coming out and peddling the same stuff about, you know, it's a project and we're looking forward and youngsters and, you know, people keep telling me, wow, you had to go and get youngsters. Well, you had to go and get Matthias de Ligt. You had to go and get Casemiro. You had to go and get Agate. You had to go... Mazraoui's not a youngster. You know, Anthony's not a youngster. He's hopeless for the price he paid. I mean, he wouldn't be a bad player, Anthony, if you got him on a free and you could stick him on the bench and he comes on now and again, but not at 100 million or whatever it was. These are all under his watch.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, but I'm not surprised we have no news.
14th in the table, as you said, the worst start to a Premier League campaign, closer to the relegation zone, Don, than 4th right now. What have you made of this? You've been shaking your head when you heard about that meeting today.
I just think if I was a Man United fan, it makes Ineos look a little bit weak. You've had, you know, meetings after meeting after meeting. You've not made a decision. You could at least come out and tell the Man United fans what was on the agenda in those meetings. You could at least tell the Man United fans why you think you're not sacking Erik Ten Hag. If you think he's the man, well, come out and say so. But I think it's the same conversation we're having all the time. And I'm starting to feel a little bit sorry for Erik Ten Hag, because this guy's just like living week by week. He survived the Villa game because it was one of the worst games I've seen in a long time. I commentated on the game. It was just so boring. It was incredible. Off the back of the Spurs debacle the week before when they lost 3-0. And all of a sudden he goes into the Brentford game and you go, well, what's the scoreline going to be in the Brentford game to keep him in a job? because every manager's got a number K that gets you the sack. And if he plays Brentford and it's a 3 or a 4, we'll be having the same conversation again. Ineos will have to have that meeting again. Then he goes to play Fenerbahce away, which is Jose's team, and you can bet your bottom dollar he's going to have them fired up. So at what point does someone from Ineos at least tell the Man United fans what's actually going on rather than silence? Otherwise, we just have this conversation where we're going, yeah, there's a meeting, nothing's been done, nothing's been said. I will let him manage the Brentford game. Hopefully we'll get a win, and that keeps him in the job for another couple of weeks. If he loses, we'll have to have another meeting again. But we might not sack him because we might just give him the Fenerbahce game. It's a shambles.
Ineos have shown themselves, and I've said this, thus far to be incapable of making better football decisions. They maybe be making better business decisions with training grounds and stadiums and commercial and whatnot. But the fan on the street, the fan watching the TV, the one paying, cares more about what they see on the field. And can you imagine Jurgen Klopp, Mikel Arteta, Pep Guardiola, Unai Emery? Can you imagine if their club were publicly known to be interviewing managers, as United did in the summer, behind their back? Can you imagine what they would do? They would walk out of those clubs, right? That's what Man United have been doing. They were interviewing other managers, De Zerbi and others, Pochettino and others, Thomas Tuchel, after he won the cup final, which, by the way, somehow saved him, according to Ineos. So, thus far, they have put a lot of money in. They've brought in a lot of technical people behind the scenes, but have shown themselves at the moment unable to make the big decision on this manager. And that's what the fans care about. That is what they care about.
We've got more quickies, Nedum.
Let's go, my friend.
Let's go. Nicolas Jackson won't be punished after what looked like a slap in one of the Nottingham Forest player at the weekend. Do you think he's lucky?
Do you know, I do think he's lucky. I do think he's lucky because even though like football is this big macho sport, there's certain things that you can't do.
Really? You can't raise your hand, right?
No,
We
you can't
always
raise
say
your
that.
hand,
Whether-
especially like it's on video.
I know,
what mean?
everybody can see. That's why I was surprised because I really
Yeah.
expected him to.
Yeah, if that was going on during the game and he's on the field, he's likely going to get a red card.
Yeah.
If the referee either sees it or the video assistant referee sees it. So for them to see it now and to say, oh no, it's fine, we'll just move on. I don't know whether that's due to some administrative thing or whatever, but yeah, he's lucky there.
I think Chelsea will get a fine for not controlling their players or whatever it is, like 25,000.
I've got to say, with that not controlling your players thing.
Yeah, is that a thing even? Like,
It
really?
is, yeah, because from when I played, that happens when 2 or more players come close to a referee.
Okay.
So it's very tough sometimes. Like when 5 of you are really annoyed, it's like, oh, unfortunately, with 4 of us got to wait back here because otherwise the club get fined. So it's whether it's 2 people or 20.
But there's when there's argy-bargy with the other team. That's nothing because the ref comes to separate people.
Your
so
English
you
is so good. To drop an argy-bargy is class.
I love an argy-bargy.
That's
I
elite.
love that. I love that
yeah,
expression.
that's very, very good. It's a weird one, but you know, they pay the money. So, Jules, as we are talking right now, whatever time this is, Erik Ten Hag is still the Manchester United manager, yeah?
Somehow he is still, Neds. With Thursday morning, recording this show. He's still there very much. There was a big meeting, as you know, on Tuesday, which was planned before the bad week that they had with Spurs and Porto and Villa, etc., where they talked for 7 hours in total at the Ineos headquarters in London with all the hierarchy. Everybody was there. And if you thought that maybe after that they would decide one way or another, because they could also have said, listen, we're going to back him up, keep him until the end of the season for sure, and make a statement about it. They didn't do that. They could have sacked him, obviously, which I was expected, and say, yeah, it's the end of the road for him. They didn't do that. So I guess there's a little bit of uncertainty too, because they haven't confirmed one way or the other. But for now, he's still, I think, he's having a few days off, isn't he?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, it's perfect. But like I say, he's gone on holiday, but is it a one-way ticket?
It could be.
We'll soon find out.
But mind you, he was on holiday in the summer when they went to see him and said, Erik, we're going to keep you. Well, maybe he expected to get fired, but he was not fired.
Okay.
Whatever happened in that meeting, Nedum, I don't know how anyone in that meeting could have said something positive about Erik Ten Hag, apart from maybe the fact that, yes, it would cost a lot of money to sack him. But it's Manchester United. They have plenty of money. So I can't see why you would keep him for much longer. Really, I don't. Nothing is going to improve. We know that.
It must be cheaper.
Yeah, maybe it's cheaper, but is that
be.
how you run a football club? One of the biggest football clubs in the world? Because it's cheaper?
Listen, I prefer not to. I'm not getting involved.
Andres Iniesta confirmed his retirement this week. We knew it was coming. We discussed it a little bit with Gab last week. But what's your memory of him?
So, from when I was growing up, I supported Man City when City weren't in the Premier League. I was a ball boy there. But teams that I used to like outside of that, I used to love Arsene Wenger's Arsenal.
Yeah.
I used to love them with like Ian Wright, Thierry Henry's. But then the other team I used to love was Barcelona.
Yeah.
I used to love. This is Barcelona from when they had Ronaldo.
Yeah.
And then you're having Romario, Rivaldo. And then I remember really falling in love with football when the midfield was Xavi, Iniesta and Busquets.
Yeah.
That's, for me, possibly the best midfield I've ever seen. And the way that they would all play slightly differently, but then still be able to dictate, run a game. And Iniesta very much fell into that.
Yeah.
Some of these little skills that he did. And he's obviously a bit older than me, but I didn't score many goals.
Yeah.
But I scored one goal, which was all right. And it was the one against Chelsea for Sunderland in 2010. And if you look, the first move I did to get through in the dribble is the Iniesta.
It's the Iniesta kind
and
of.
I saw that from Iniesta.
Two inside of his foot, like the flip-flap with the inside
exactly.
of his feet.
And that move to me, I can't think of anyone else that was doing it around that time. So funnily enough.
You and him.
I wouldn't say like our moves are comparable as such, but on reflection, like that's why I even knew the move was a thing, because I used to watch him do it.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that he's retired, but what a career he's had.
Incredible.
And without question, one of the best footballers we've ever seen. And, you know, for him, you can think about the sort of like club honours, but they can also think about the fact he scored the winner in a World Cup final, which is pretty much every footballer's dream, whether it's boy or girl, anything. That is the dream come true.
Probably the greatest Spanish player. I know they've had a lot of others really, really world-class players, but even ahead of Xavi, maybe, ahead of Busquets, ahead of Raúl, ahead of, I don't know, Sergio Ramos, Puyol, whoever you want. I think it was that good. So
you can make a case for it. But Jules, let's change the tone a bit. It wasn't a great night for the Arsenal women, was it, in the Champions League?
It wasn't. Ned, they went away at Bayern Munich. They took the lead as well. What looked, I thought, okay for the first half hour, and then just a massive collapse in the second half. That was 5-2. 5-2, which I think is a bit of a humiliating defeat for United the World, who is a bit under pressure now. Let's be honest. They drew 0-0 against Everton at the weekend in the WSL. And they dropped points against City, although I thought they played really well against City for that opening match of the season. And they've got Chelsea coming up at the weekend at the Emirates again. So if there's one moment where, you know, when you say like some games matter really, Arsenal-Chelsea game is always big in the WSL because they are title contenders with City. It will be one of them three who win it at the end. But maybe for Jonas, it's ever been, I'm not sure many games since he took over Arsenal has been that important than the one on Saturday, because if they don't win that one, I think the pressure will intensify even more, you know. So we'll have to see. More Manchester City even for you, Nedum, not just because you're here, because they are a lot in the news right now. And not so good news, not as good as the Champions League one that we discussed earlier, because Chiki Bekarishtan, who is the sporting director at the club, who's been there for the last 11 years or 12 years even, has decided to leave the club at the end of the season.
When you think about how much the club has changed from when he arrived to where he's at today, when you think about the managers that have been in play and the importance of him to Pep Guardiola across all those years.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to spend some time with him, and he loves football. He loves connecting with people. We were doing there was a point where we were having to do like an interview in the this media room. And we were doing it, but out the window, there was a Youth Cup game, and you could see he was just itching to go out there and just watch the Youth Cup game. I know. And that's him. Like, football is his love. All the things, some of the other things around it, he can do very, very well, but he wants to be engaged. He wants to be helping individuals, helping staff, trying to play football the right way. Yeah. And I think he's a huge part in why Guardiola's been there, why Guardiola's been so successful. So a lot of people might not know who he is, but everyone who's worked at the football club in that 11 years know exactly who he is, because he's touched the lives of all of them. So him leaving is a big blow, and they'll obviously try and replace him. But I guess it'll just have to be done differently, because, as I say, he's been one of the most important people in the 11 years. But anyway, massive news in Paris, Jules, and it doesn't involve PSG.
No, and we mentioned a little bit in our club chat, because Paris FC, which is one of the other clubs in Paris who play in the second division, the top of the table, with big ambitions to go up, is about to be taken over by the Arnault family, who own Louis Vuitton, LVMH Group. Their fortune is 190 billion euros.
Okay.
That's how rich they are. So
Okay,
good
not
for
bad.
them. And also minority shareholder of the Red Bull Group. So you can add to Bragantino, your favorite club in Brazil, and Leipzig and Salzburg. You can also add Paris FC very soon. So a very exciting time, I think, if you're a Paris FC fan. Neds, we've had a very sad news last night on Wednesday night with the news of the passing of George Baldock at the age of 31.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking for somebody that young to lose their life, and for me personally, having played in leagues that he's been in and also played with people who he's played alongside, I know that there are a lot of people very, very sad today. People who held him dearly, really close with him, really enjoyed playing with him, loved him as a person, and I just feel bad for his family, all his friends. It's a real shame. It's a real shame. And as you said, it's 31 years of age.
Man,
You know, any sort of breaking news announcement where somebody's passed and you see them being so young, it is heartbreaking. I just hope that people can recover as soon as they can. But I'd imagine this could potentially take a lifetime.
Yeah, we obviously not have many details yet of what happened and everything. He played for Sheffield United in the Premier League, went up from the lower leagues, signed for Panathinaikos, in the summer because he had Greek relatives in his family. He was allowed to play for Greece, so he was a full Greek international, and really 31 in the heart of his career. So really sad news.
It's heartbreaking. And Jules, unfortunately, we've got to finish the show with even more sad news.
Yeah, because we also had the passing this week of one of the greats of the history of the game. Johan Niskens, the former Dutch international who played for Ajax, played for Barcelona, then went to play in what was before the MLS in the US, before MLS in the US. One of the, I think, best players that we've seen, certainly players that have changed the game. Not many players can say that they've changed the games in a way, but him with Johan Cruyff and Rinus Michels, of course, Michels being the manager of this total football Dutch team of the 70s, 74 World Cup finals, 78 World Cup finals, and Niskens was very much at the heart of it. Cruyff was the brains and the genius behind it, and Niskens was his assistant, his number two, really. And I think for a long time, Niskens was seen as Johan, the second Johan, because there was Cruyff at Ajax with him, then at Barcelona with him, and he was the other Johan. I think sometimes that was maybe a blessing because he could let Cruyff guide him and he could do all the job that Cruyff wanted, and sometimes maybe a more of a curse because I think he maybe would have loved a bit of a bigger role, but Cruyff was always the better and the smarter player. But what a player, maybe the first real box-to-box player in the game, even before it became an English thing, because he had this incredible fitness and the running capacities and brains of football that he could play any positions almost. And it was great. And he never won the World Cup, which is obviously the biggest regret, I think, in his career, but won pretty much everything else. So an incredible career, really. And a player that I think should be remembered exactly the way it was. In a way, it was part of a revolution in football that the Dutch brought in the 70s.
Absolutely, yeah.
Neds, thank you so much for coming down, man, from all the way from Manchester. It was great to have you here. It was a really, really good show. We'll be back on Monday, of course. Gab will be back, and the international break will be in full swing. We'll have loads of games in the Nations League, in the Copa, in the South America qualifiers for the World Cup as well, in Africa, everywhere. Loads of games. So we'll review all of that with Gab on Monday. And until then, as Gab always said, love yourself, love your neighbour, love the game.
United remain silent on Erik Ten Hag's future amid growing fan concerns. Erik Ten Hag's pre-match press conference is set to take place in a week, but Manchester United officials remain tight-lipped on the burning question that millions of fans are desperate to have answered. What was supposed to be a routine monthly executive meeting at Manchester United has turned into something far from ordinary. Television crews, photographers, and reporters swarmed outside Ineos' office in Knightsbridge, eager for any indication of what transpired inside. Sources within United claimed the meeting was pre-scheduled, covering finances, commercial plans, and the long-term redevelopment of Old Trafford, as well as the team's performance. However, despite the pressing situation, there were no official updates on Ten Hag's position. The natural assumption is that Ten Hag will still be at the helm for the press conference at Carrington next Thursday and on the sidelines for the crucial match against Brentford 2 days later. Yet, United has dodged the very question that consumes the minds of their global fan base: will the manager stay or be shown the door? This question is far more urgent than discussions around Old Trafford's reconstruction or Premier League sustainability rules. United's struggles on the pitch are glaring. Just 3 wins from their 11 games this season, a lowly 14th place in the Premier League with a goal difference of -3, and failing to score in 4 of their last 5 league games. Only Southampton has scored fewer goals this season. The last time United performed this poorly in their first 7 league matches was in the 1972-73 season, when then-manager Franco Farrell was sacked mid-season. Since the start of the last campaign, United has won just 28 of 63 games, and only 20 of their last 45 Premier League matches. Despite these alarming statistics, United's leadership has been evasive. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, a key figure in the club's ownership, commented, "I don't want to answer that question. I like Erik, I think he's a great coach, but ultimately, it's not my decision. The management team running Manchester United has to determine the best way to lead this club forward." Ratcliffe's reluctance to fully back Ten Hag has fueled speculation about a potential replacement, with rumours linking Thomas Tuchel to the role. The executive meeting on Tuesday was described as routine, but the presence of power brokers at multiple meetings this week and Ratcliffe's discreet exit from Old Trafford through a back entrance have only added to the intrigue. Following United's FA Cup final victory in May, Ratcliffe avoided discussing Ten Hag's future when asked by reporters. The club's decision to keep Ten Hag in June was equally opaque, with no official announcement from United. News of his continuation was instead leaked to a select journalist. As of now, the club has failed to decisively quash the uncertainty surrounding Ten Hag's future. Their silence, deafening as it is, only prolongs the tension, leaving fans and pundits alike questioning whether the manager will stay. For a club of United's stature, clarity on such a crucial issue is long overdue.